I've clicked onto the global tropical overview for July the 21st, 2024. As is always the case in these videos, the flood pressure are mine alone. If you're going to make any decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look to your local office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. So we have a couple storms active in the West Pacific this morning. We have Tropical Depression 4. I don't believe it's been named yet in the South China Sea. This is slowly making progress towards the coast of Hainan in China and will likely make landfall there in the next day or so as probably a tropical storm. And we'll talk about that one briefly before we go to the main system of this video, which is Tropical Storm Gaemi, which I hope I'm saying that name correctly. If not, I apologize, but this system is east of Luzon and forecast to be a significant storm for Taiwan, the southern Japanese islands, and potentially eastern China as well. So I'll leave a timestamp to this one if you want to skip ahead to that part of the video, but we're going to briefly touch on 4 in the South China Sea. This system is again sitting here in the more northwest South China Sea, and it is struggling in the face of some northerly shear today. If we look at water vapor imagery, we could see some northerly flow coming off of the eastern end of a ridge over portions of China, and that is pushing all the convection onto the south side of the storm. And that's why really the northern side is void of much convection at all. And this shear is forecast to persist. Now, it's not always going to be northerly. Eventually, it is going to turn easterly. But the shear overall is not going to change much as the system comes up towards Hainan, and this will likely keep the system in check and not allow it to intensify at all too much. But it still could intensify some, and some models do show this. We can see if we look at hurricane model guidance, this is the HWRF, showing you this continued lopsided structure by Sunday evening local time. And you can see that here's the center, and all the convection is off on the western side. Now, this is at a point where the shear becomes more easterly because of Gaemi further east. So this is going to push all the convection over Hainan on the western side. It's going to be a pretty beefy side there, and we could have tropical storm force winds for a wide area, and certainly a lot of heavy rainfall there as the system comes in. And you can see then it makes landfall in Hainan. We're probably looking at landfall, say, Monday morning, Monday afternoon, local time. And again, not really anticipating much strengthening from this due to that shear. The shear is going to continue to be at fairly moderate levels, and it should keep the system fairly well in check on intensity. There are some models that try to intensify it a little bit more. One thing to watch for, and we do see maybe some signs of this morning, we have some convection now trying to fire right over that center. If this can get a little bit more well-defined over the center, maybe cover it completely, then we could maybe see a bit more intensification than if it stays in this current state that it's in now. But regardless, we're not going to look at a rapidly intensifying situation here. This is going to be just a tropical storm. Don't see it getting to typhoon intensity here. And you can see after that, it comes northwest and comes into mainland China, still as a weakened storm. The shear remains still pretty significant in moderate values, even after Hainan. So this should keep the system at bay. But this has been a bit of a shift in west since we talked about the storm last. Last time we talked about the storm was the expectation of the system coming east of Hainan and then into the southern coast of China, generally west of Hong Kong. But now we're moving further west into the coastline area of, say, China, and I believe that's Vietnam off there towards the west. And that's maybe a sign of the system being further west. I don't know if models really had it this south a few days ago when they were anticipating it to come up north. This does appear to be a little bit further south than those expectations. But this system is just, like I said, rainfall and tropical storm force wind threat to Hainan in portions of south central China as the system comes through this week, but nothing too big there. But the same cannot be said for Tropical Storm Gaemi. Again, I'm hoping I'm saying that name correctly. East of Luzon this morning, this system has been doing some interesting things over the past day. It is currently getting sheared as well. You can see that if we go to the current visible satellite imagery, we have some convection here getting their tops blown off from the north. Now, if we look at water vapor imagery, you can see pay attention mainly to here, there's some cloud elements moving off towards the west, and this is highlighting some shear on the southern end of an upper level high that's placed north of the system. So we're getting a little bit of easterly shear. You can see that on the sounding from the H-Wharf, showing this fairly deep pocket of easterly shear from that ridge. And this has been impinging upon the system all day today. Now, having said that, the system is still doing fairly well for itself, all things considered. It did have what appeared to be a less favorable convective pattern taking shape, say, last night, but this morning we're transitioning into this classic curved band look. Some others might call it a shrimp pattern, and that's because this looks like a shrimp you would get in like a seafood restaurant. You have the curved band going right into the center of the storm. And this is so favorable because oftentimes this can lead to inner core development. So you can build an eye wall and eventually that can intensify into a stronger storm. And once you're into a mature typhoon, that eye inside that eye wall can clear. And we're seeing some indications that this might be trying to happen right now. You can see this is a microwave pass that we got a few hours ago. And we have, again, this deep convection wrapping around in a shrimp-like shape. And it's wrapping around, and we have a little bit of a semblance of an inner core. Now, from what I can tell, there does appear to be some tilt with height with this structure. This is a low-level view. We do have this little band here. It's a bit low res, so it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. But if I had to guess, this is a little band that would be curving in like this, and it wraps around like this. So this low-level center is here. And if I clean this up a little bit and go to the mid-level center, you can see there's a slight tilt with height between the low-level center and the mid-level center. And this has been captured on, say, the H-Wharf model. You can see this is the mid-level relative humidity. So the contours here are the surface pressure. The wind barbs are the mid-level flow. And while the surface center is here, the mid-level center is a little bit offset to the west. And this would be expected with that easterly shears. If we look at this sounding again, you can see we have this deeper layer of shear impinging right upon the mid-level center, while lower closer to the surface, that flow is pretty light. So you would anticipate this sort of a tilt to happen. Now, what happens in these tilted structures is the systems can tend to struggle to intensify, and this will likely hold back the system from, say, rapidly deepening until it restacks that structure. Once it gets restacked, then we can see really rapid development take place within the center. And you can see this happen if we look at the H-Wharf model, where if we look at the upper level flow, here's this ridge currently bringing this easterly shear to the system. And what's going to happen is we're going to have a little bit of a trough dig in over the East China Sea, and this is going to erode part of this ridge. So you'll see this happen. That trough digs in, and what happens now is that ridge is over here now. This eastern part is now eroded, so now we're taking away, for the most part, that easterly shear. So that tilt fixes itself. It's now vertically stacked, and what this trough is also doing is it's aiding in northern outflow. So towards the North Pole, you're getting more air rushing away from the storm, and you can see that open up greatly as we go into the Tuesday time frame. So this is Tuesday evening local time. And as this happens, you'll see the structure vertically stack on this plot. So this is by Tuesday evening local time. Now we've got a stacked vortex. And once that happens, then we start to see more rapid deepening happen on the model before it gets to the southern Japanese islands. And this is the current expectation, which with a lot of models, is that the shear will keep it at bay for, say, the next day or so, and then once it subsides, we'll see a quicker, maybe rapid pace of intensification on approach to either Taiwan or the southern Japanese islands. There's still a bit of wiggle room on exactly where we're going to get hit, but that's a general idea. And you can see that here in the Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast. They're currently forecasting a slower phase of intensification up to a typhoon, looks like by Tuesday, or this will be Wednesday morning local time. And then we get a more rapid phase of intensification as it comes somewhere between the eastern coast of Taiwan and the southernmost Japanese islands. Now, touching on track a little bit, now we have had a bit of a shift in the past few days. When we talked about it last, a lot of models were having this system come through the Japanese islands and then further north, potentially up to South Korea or northeastern China. The models have shifted a little bit further west. Now we're looking at a track maybe closer to, say, the westernmost Japanese islands or the east coast of Taiwan, and then coming into eastern China south of Shanghai. And the reason for this is that the ridge further east has gotten a little bit stronger further west, so you can see it nosing in here over Japan a little bit more. So this is pushing the system a little bit further west than it was in prior model runs. So this has allowed the system to come west. Now, there's still a lot of wiggle room here. And for those, in Japan, in Taiwan, trying to figure out, okay, where's the system exactly going to go? We can't tell you that right now, as this is still, 3 to 4 days out from the storm actually coming through you all. And telling you exactly which island it's going to hit here is impossible, especially even Taiwan. And this is something to take very seriously. We could have a very strong storm coming through here that could be rapidly strengthening by the time it gets there. Now, of course, if it passes over Taiwan, it will pass over a lot of high topography. That will probably save eastern China from, say, a stronger landfall, but it could easily miss Taiwan, like on this forecast, and then we could get a stronger landfall in eastern China. So everyone here in Japan, eastern China, and Taiwan needs to be preparing for a typhoon. You have, like I said, 3 to 4 days before the system actually comes through. On this forecast, this is the time on, I believe, let me look at my calendar real quick. That's the 23rd UTC. So that would be Wednesday morning local time. That's when the system could be finally approaching you all for a landfall. So you have until then to get your preparations done. Really before then, because this is a larger system, so you could be having adverse impacts well beforehand. And you can actually see that in these wind fields from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. This is Wednesday morning. Impacts are already coming into Taiwan and the Japanese islands. So preferably have your preparations done by Tuesday evening, as that will get you ahead and that will have you done with what you need to do so you can stay safe as the system passes through. And I'll have more videos as the week goes on, as the system pushes through. And I'll have updates as well on my Twitter page, so you can follow that. And I'll keep you all updated whenever I feel necessary. That's all that I've got for today. Stay safe in all the areas being hit by these storms. I'll leave links to any local weather offices that I can find at the top of the description. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.